This video is not intended to encourage or glorify any kind of drug use. The sole purpose of these videos is to educate you on the dangers of what these substances can do to you. Please do not do any of the acts mentioned in this video. I repeat, do not do any of the acts mentioned in this video.
Welcome to the world of Tales from the Trip.
I knew I fucked up about 2 minutes after I chugged my pre-workout drink. My heart was racing faster than I'd ever felt in my life. My face was pouring with sweat, and I started to feel very anxious and nauseous. My friend was honking his horn in the driveway to hurry me up so he could go to the gym. I decided to ignore how I was feeling and just go with my friend, so I hopped in the car, and off we went. As we're driving to the gym, I realize with the absolute certainty that something is definitely wrong. I think I mixed caffeine in my drink instead of creatine, man. I don't feel right. I mixed 5 grams of that shit. My friend, ignoring the panic in my voice and refusing to take me seriously, tells me to relax, and we continue to the gym. We usually mess around with each other and always take things too far, so it wasn't a ridiculous thing to assume I was joking. In a final attempt to try and convince myself that everything is okay, I decided to just go to the gym and to work out whatever is wrong with me. We get to the gym, I swipe my card, and I head straight to the squat rack. At this point, I am able to squat 225 pounds for about 6 to 8 reps after a good warm-up and stretch, but I was way too anxious to even think about doing any of that. Instead, I go and set the bar up with 225 pounds. My heart begins to race faster, but I ignore it and go on to squat my normal 225-pound weight for over 30 reps, an absolutely unthinkable number. There was no struggle in my effort. I just went up and down until my legs were numb. I couldn't feel anything below my waist. I put the bar back and paused for a moment. My heart rate is pumping so fast now that I am genuinely concerned. I may be having a heart attack. I can't lie to myself any longer. I took caffeine. I know I did, and I need to get it out of my body. I sprint to the change room to purge myself of the caffeine and make myself puke. I throw open the door and look for a free stall, only to find them all occupied. With no other option, I bend down to the nearest urinal, stick my finger down my throat, and throw up what looks to be fluorescent orange bile. My friend comes into the bathroom to find me with my head in a urinal filled with vomit and piss. It's obvious now that I am not joking around and am in serious trouble. He tries to calm me down, but there's nothing he can do. He tells me to wait and gets a representative from the gym to see if they can help. The rep offers to get me an ambulance, but my anxiety is growing more and more out of control, and the thought of being wheeled away in a gurney only makes it worse. I shake my head, tell them no, and leave the gym with my friend. I asked him to drive me to the hospital. My friend, being the considerate and kind person he is, tells me that he has an appointment to go to and can only drive me halfway. It's the middle of winter in Toronto, and my friend drops me off 20 minutes away from the hospital. It's snowing outside, and the sidewalk and roads are covered in gray slush. This is as bad a situation as I have ever been in. I begin my walk to the hospital with my 2 fingers on my pulse. My heart is pounding harder and harder, and it physically hurts at this point. The more I walk, the faster my pulse gets, and the more it hurts. I'm starting to panic and don't know what to do, so I opt to get on all fours, sling my gym bag around my neck, and begin crawling in hopes that I can reduce my heart rate. As I crawl to the hospital, I start to feel a tingling in my body and notice that the gray slush I've been trekking through has turned into a vibrant purplish green color. The cars whizzing past me on the road are no longer making noise. Instead, the sounds they're making have turned into waves of different colored light that are enveloping me and dancing all around until they've consumed the whole sky. I am tripping like I just took 2 tabs of LSD. To Despite my hallucinations, I finally make it to the hospital where I'm told to sit down and wait. I'm not hallucinating as much, but the walls around me are breathing and the floor is swaying from side to side. After about 20 minutes, I see a doctor who begins to do a number of different tests on me. He asks me how much caffeine I consumed, and I tell him that I dissolved 5 grams into some juice and chugged it in about 10 seconds. The doctor turned around and stared at me with utter shock. You consume the equivalent of 50 cups of coffee in under 10 seconds. You should be dead. Your fast metabolism saved you. Any normal human being with a slower metabolic rate would be dead right now. You are incredibly lucky to be alive. There wasn't much the doctor could do for me. The caffeine was in my system. I had thrown up a large amount of it, and my metabolism had saved me from a possible death. Continue to drink water. Try and rest up, the doctor insisted. So I went home to rest, but it was impossible. I didn't sleep for 3 days. To this day, I haven't taken any pre-workout or supplements, and I haven't had a cup of coffee since. So I started drinking coffee around 2014 when I was a first-year student in my undergrad. I never liked tea or coffee before, but I was going through some sleep problems and jet lag and thought caffeine could help me out. But what I soon realized that, more than warding off sleepiness, caffeine also had a powerful stimulant effect on me. It made me very focused, sorely needed for an ADHD person like myself, and gave me the energy and confidence to socialize and get things done. Again, sorely needed for a shy person like me. What started out as 1 cup a day turned into 2 cups a day, and then 3, and then 4, until I was running on caffeine all day long. Initially, I could notice only the positive symptoms. I used to call it magic potion or liquid magic to my friends and promote it to everyone I could find. In fact, looking back, caffeine did have a lot of positive impact on my life. For instance, I went from being a C-grade student to an A-grade student in a matter of months. Won't say caffeine increased my intelligence, but it does provide you attention, focus, stamina, and motivation to get things done, which is sorely needed for students. It completely cured my ADHD. Caffeine has dopamine, adrenaline, and norepinephrine actions, the same as neurotransmitters that ADHD meds target. Not just in studies, but for once I could accomplish stuff and not forget where I kept my keys, etc. It made me extremely social, extroverted, and outgoing. I was extremely shy and suffered from social anxiety disorder, and caffeine just turned me into a social butterfly. People were amazed that the same shy boy had suddenly become so outspoken. Big ideas would come up, like I would conquer the world. I legit started writing my own novel during a caffeine trip as so many ideas flooded my head. But alas, what must come up must also come down, right? These effects lasted until 2016 or so. Around that time, I started noticing many negative effects. I didn't realize they were due to my over-caffeine consumption, but what I could not deny was that these bad effects only started after drinking a large cup of espresso or something. So obviously, caffeine had a link with them, even if I didn't want to admit them. These were the negative effects. Extreme aggression and anger, often to the point of making outbursts at people. This happened mostly when I drank coffee on an empty stomach. Too much jitters. Anyone who knows about caffeine knows what jitters are. Along with the ups of coffee, which lasted about 2 to 3 hours, there was also a crashing come down associated with each cup, and the down can last a hell of a lot longer. Like any drug, caffeine has a come up / rush, then a high, and then finally a come down. Extreme anxiety and paranoia, often delusional ideas that people are following me, etc. Despite these negatives, I continued to drink coffee. I went abroad, started my master's, and coffee was the only thing that kept me going. Against all odds, I passed with good results and everything. Anyhow, here comes the main part of my story. One day, I didn't have any coffee in my house, so I bought a coffee jar, Nescafe Espresso Gold, at night. Since I didn't have it throughout the day, I thought why not have them all in the night? I made a cup with around 3 to 4 teaspoons of coffee, around 300 to 400 milligrams, then another cup with the same amount, then another cup with double the amount, and I consumed them all at once, like in an hour's time or so. Now, based on my calculation, I drank about 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of caffeine, 400 milligrams is said to be the safe upper limit per day, but since I had a tolerance, I could easily consume 1,000 milligrams a day, like 3 Starbucks venti, without much problem. However, they were spread all over the day, so my body had time to process and expel the caffeine from my body in due time. That night, however, I took that much caffeine in an hour's or 2 hours' time. Obviously, my body wasn't prepared for that. Within 30 to 40 minutes of finishing my coffee marathon, I felt like my heart was pounding like a tiger in my chest. I had the worst panic attack I could think of in my life. My body was shaking vigorously, and I vomited all over my room. I went out of my house and started running like crazy for almost 2 hours. I almost thought of calling 911 but stopped. Around 3 a.m. or so, I started feeling slightly better and thought it was over. However, there was a weird feeling in my head, as though something was permanently damaged there. There was also a feeling that some poison was secreting from my head and running all over my body. Next day I woke up, I had the worst depression of my life. Just an FYI, I have taken an antidepressant, mirtazapine, for over 10 years, but never felt as terrible. I was agitated beyond belief, was walking 10 to 12 hours a day, just couldn't stop, my body was that hyper, terrible watery diarrhea. I left my job and was staying at a relative's house for some time, etc. When I went to my doctor, seeing my symptoms, he said I most probably have Seretonin Syndrome. While serotonin is needed for your body to function, too much of it can be hazardous, even deadly. This generally happens when you take a serotonin-releasing drug alongside your antidepressant, which are most likely serotonergic, so too much serotonin can lead to overstimulation. He asked me if I took MDMA, meth, or any psychedelics. I said no. Finally, he said, "Did you drink too much coffee?" And then I explained it to him, and he said, yes, coffee can cause serotonin syndrome in susceptible patients. He also said caffeine can cause psychosis, and in large doses, it can be neurotoxic as well. It took me about 2 months to recover, and I'm doing much better today. I am in the process of weaning my caffeine addiction. I switched to tea and rarely drink coffee now. Long story short, caffeine is a powerful stimulant drug that can have strong effect on your mood, from getting you euphorically high to giving you laser-sharp focus, to making you terribly anxious and jittery, to giving you full-blown panic attacks and psychosis and whatnot. The fact that people drink it like water bothers me.